You know that feeling when something small, almost insignificant, tugs at the corner of your mind? It's subtle at first, like a whisper barely audible over the hum of everyday life. That's how it began for me on a lazy Tuesday evening with a suitcase. Our garage was a museum of discarded hobbies and past seasons, each item a snapshot of different chapters of our life. Linda had been on me about clearing some space, maybe making room for a new project, or just making it easier to find things. So there I was, sorting through piles of memories when I stumbled upon it, an old suitcase buried under a stack of Christmas decorations and old tennis rackets. Curiosity is a funny thing. It can lead you to the greatest discoveries or the deepest regrets. At that moment, driven by the former, I dusted off the suitcase. It was Linda's. I could tell by the faded stickers from our trips to Maine and Colorado years ago. Probably old clothes she's forgotten about, I thought, justifying the intrusion as I unbuckled the clasps. The contents of the suitcase were mundane at first glance. A few old books, a broken camera, but then, underneath, I found them. Souvenirs. Keychains from Paris, postcards from Rome, a tiny statue of Christ the Redeemer from Rio. Places Linda had never mentioned visiting. My brow furrowed as I held a snow globe from Moscow, watching the faux snowflakes settle around the miniature Kremlin. Why would Linda have these? I murmured to myself, a chill running down my spine, not from the drafty garage, but from the budding suspicion. I knew Linda traveled for work, but she was in marketing, not international relations. The destinations didn't match her usual trips to Chicago or LA. Sitting back on my heels, I felt the first real stab of worry. It was ridiculous, wasn't it? There must be a reasonable explanation. People collect souvenirs all the time. Maybe they were gifts, but from whom, and why hadn't she mentioned them? The whisper in my mind grew louder, urging me to dig deeper. I knew I shouldn't, that going down this path could lead to places I might regret. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It was more than just the mismatched destinations. It was the secrecy of it all. With a heavy sigh, I stood up, clutching the snow globe. The garage felt colder now, or maybe it was just me. I needed answers, and I had a sinking feeling that I was not going to like what I found. But I had to know, didn't I? For better or for worse, I had to know. The night was unsettlingly quiet as I sat at the dining table with Linda's laptop before me. I glanced over at her, asleep on the couch, the TV casting flickering shadows across her peaceful face. It's funny how the mind races in the stillness of night, filling the silence with the worst of thoughts. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. This was Linda's private world, a realm I had never questioned before, full of mundane work emails and conference calls. Or so I believed. Logging in felt like crossing a line, but the souvenirs had unlocked a door to doubts I couldn't close. The password came easily, almost instinctively. We shared everything, or so I had thought. The screen lit up, and there it was, her inbox, a digital Pandora's box. I started with the search bar typing travel, conference, tickets. Each keyword, a hesitant tap of the keys. The results came pouring in, but it was the emails marked with flags and urgent tags that caught my attention. They were exchanges with her boss, Jason Myers. My stomach tightened with each click, the emails loading like the slow tick of a bomb. Looking forward to our trip to Rome. It'll be a great opportunity to unwind after the conference, Jason had written. Can't wait. We deserve this little getaway, Linda replied, her words a punch to my gut. I scrolled further, the dates and details blurring into a mosaic of betrayal. Their tone shifted over months, from strictly professional to unmistakably personal. Inside jokes, late-night messages, plans made under the guise of work. It wasn't just the content that stung. It was the familiarity, the intimacy of their words. Fueled by a mix of anger and disbelief, I dug deeper, piecing together itineraries that never matched the official business trips logged on her company's website. A dinner in Paris, a weekend in a cozy Rome hotel, places and moments never mentioned at our own dinner table. I leaned back, closing my eyes as the pieces fell into place. A mosaic of lies and secret rendezvous. The sound of Linda's light snoring was a harsh reminder of the reality unfolding. I had to confront her. But how? Could I just wake her up, evidence in hand, and demand the truth? The thought of it churned my stomach. The clock ticked past midnight, each sound a reminder of the time we had lost, the trust slipping through my fingers. I needed more evidence, something undeniable. My next step was a call to her office under the guise of a routine check from their IT department. It was risky, impersonating someone else, but I needed access to her travel records. The conversation with the unsuspecting admin was brief. "Yes, I'm just verifying the details for security purposes. Thank you for your cooperation." The records came through, and there it was in black and white. The truth, stark and undeniable. Half of the trips were personal, a lie cloaked in the veil of professional necessity. I sat there, surrounded by the quiet night, the weight of my discovery pressing down on me. The woman I loved, the life we built. It was all under question now. What was real, and what was just a facade? The first light of dawn crept through the blinds, casting long shadows across the room. I had decisions to make, confrontations to face. But first, I needed to gather my thoughts, steel my resolve. Today would be the day everything changed. Friday evening's amber glow filled our kitchen as I prepared dinner, a task I usually enjoyed. Yet tonight, each chop and stir was mechanical, my actions automatic, while my mind was a turbulent sea of emotion. Linda had texted. She'd be late again, stuck in traffic. The irony of it wasn't lost on me. Traffic had become the least of the obstructions between us. When she finally walked through the door, her face wore the day's fatigue like a mask. She smiled, a tired curve of the lips, and I forced one in return. The aroma of garlic and basil filled the space between us, a familiar comfort that now seemed like a thin veil over the growing chasm. "Tough day?" I asked, keeping my tone casual, my back to her as I stirred the pasta. "You know how it is," Linda replied, setting down her keys with a clink that sounded louder than usual. "Deadlines?" I nodded, though she couldn't see. My hand tightened around the wooden spoon. The evidence of her deceit was burning a hole in my pocket, the printouts of emails and travel records like a weight dragging me down. Dinner was a quiet affair, punctuated only by the clinking of cutlery and the occasional, strained small talk. My appetite was gone, replaced by a knot of anxiety and anger in my stomach. Finally, as Linda sipped her wine, looking out at the garden bathed in the last light of day, I knew it was time. "Linda, we need to talk," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. Her eyes met mine, a flicker of confusion passing through them, before settling into a cautious calm. "What's up?" "It's about your trips, your work trips." The words felt heavy, loaded. Linda set down her glass, her posture stiffening slightly. "What about them?" I took a deep breath, the printouts now on the table between us like a declaration of war. "I know about Jason, Linda. I know there's more going on than just work." The color drained from her face, her eyes widening not with innocence, but with the realization that I knew. "Mark, I've seen the emails, Linda. The trips to places you've never mentioned, the weekend getaways masked as business meetings." My voice broke, a mix of heartache and betrayal. "How long has this been going on?" She opened her mouth, then closed it, a battle of confession and denial playing across her features. "It's not what you think," she finally whispered, her voice trembling. "Then what is it?" I demanded, my voice rising despite my attempt to stay calm. "Tell me there's a good explanation, that there's a reason you've lied to me about where you've been, who you've been with." Linda looked down, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I wanted to tell you, I did, but it started as nothing, and then—" Her voice faded, the sentence unfinished, lost in a sigh. "And then what, Linda? It became something?" I pushed, needing to understand, to hear her say it. "Yes, it became complicated. But it's not what you think, Mark. It's not an affair." "Complicated," I echoed, the word bitter. "That's one way to put it." She reached across the table, her hand trembling as it touched mine. "I was going to tell you everything tonight. There's something planned for you. A surprise. With Jason's help." A surprise. The word hung in the air, incongruent and jarring against the backdrop of my suspicions. Was it possible that I had misunderstood everything? Doubt crept in, but the hurt was too deep, the deception too real. "Is that supposed to make everything okay?" I pulled my hand away, the gesture final. How can I trust anything you say now? Linda's eyes filled with tears, a mixture of fear and frustration. I don't know, Mark, but I'm asking you to try. The silence that followed was suffocating, filled with the weight of words unsaid and trust broken. As I looked at her, the woman I loved, I was torn between the pain of betrayal and the glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, there was more to the story than I had imagined. The tension in the room could have been cut with a knife, as Linda's tearful eyes met mine. The silence stretched between us, thick and uncomfortable, until a knock at the door sliced through it like a sudden clap of thunder. I glanced at Linda, her expression a mix of relief and apprehension. She wiped her eyes quickly and stood to answer the door. It was Rachel, our neighbor and Linda's closest confidant. She stepped in with her usual bright smile, which faltered slightly as she took in the somber atmosphere. "Hey, I hope I'm not interrupting. I just wanted to drop off the—" Her voice trailed off as she looked from Linda to me, her instincts picking up on the tension. "Actually, Rachel, you might as well know too," Linda said suddenly, her voice gaining strength as she turned to me. "Mark, before you say anything else, there's something you need to see." Confused, I watched as Linda retrieved an envelope from Rachel and handed it to me. My hands trembled slightly as I opened it. Inside were several documents and a small invitation card that read, "Surprise! Celebrating Mark's promotion." The date and details indicated it was planned for the next week, at a venue I had mentioned liking in passing. "I don't understand," I stammered, looking up from the card. "This was the secret? A party?" "Yes," Linda said, stepping closer. "Jason and I have been planning this for months. It was meant to be a surprise, to celebrate your promotion. All those trips, the messages, they were about this. We needed to meet to organize everything without you getting suspicious." Rachel chimed in, her tone gentle. "Linda's been agonizing over how to keep it a secret, but still make it perfect for you, Mark. She wanted this to be a special way to show how much she loves and supports you." I felt the room spin slightly as the reality of my accusations and the truth of Linda's intentions settled in. "So, all this time, when I thought—" "You thought wrong, Mark," Linda said softly, tears still in her eyes but her voice steady. "Yes, I should have found a way to reassure you, to include you somehow without ruining the surprise. But there was never anything between me and Jason beyond friendship and professional respect." The weight of my misjudgments bore down on me, a crushing sense of guilt replacing the earlier surge of betrayal. "Linda, I'm so sorry. I just saw things, added them up all wrong." Linda nodded, taking a tentative step towards me. "I get it, love. The secrecy, the late nights, it was all too much. I should have seen how it looked. But can we try to move past this? Can we start again?" I took her hand, feeling the familiar warmth that had always signified home. "Yes, we can start again. I trust you, Linda, and I'm sorry for doubting us." We embraced, the connection we'd temporarily lost, rekindling in the quiet understanding of our shared mistake. Rachel smiled, her presence a comforting reminder of normalcy. "I'll leave you two to talk," she said, heading towards the door. "And Mark, I'll see you at your party. Try to act surprised." As the door closed behind her, Linda and I sat down, beginning the slow, delicate process of rebuilding trust. The night ended not with accusations, but with plans for the future, laughter mingling with apologies, and love reaffirmed amidst the remnants of misunderstanding. The night of the party arrived quicker than I thought it would. As Linda and I walked into the softly lit venue, hand in hand, I could feel the last traces of tension between us melting away. The room was decorated elegantly, a subtle mix of sophistication and warmth, exactly the way I liked things. I glanced at Linda, her face alight with excitement and relief, her eyes meeting mine, with an unspoken apology still lingering in their depths. "I can't believe you did all this for me," I whispered to her, as friends and colleagues began to surround us with congratulations and warm wishes. "I wanted to show you how much you mean to me, how proud I am of you," she replied, her voice barely audible over the music and chatter. "Does this make up for the secrets?" "More than," I assured her, squeezing her hand. As the evening progressed, each moment felt like a stitch mending the fabric of our relationship that had been torn by doubt and fear. Midway through the celebrations, Jason approached, a congenial smile on his face. The tension I would have felt weeks ago was absent, replaced by an understanding of his true role in this scenario. Mark, congratulations again on the promotion. I hope tonight shows there were no hard feelings, just hard plans to keep from you, he joked, clapping me on the shoulder. Thanks, Jason. I appreciate all the effort, really. It's been quite a revelation, I said, my tone light, forgiving. Linda joined in, her laughter mingling with ours, the sound like music to my ears. As the party wound down and the last guests offered their goodbyes, Linda and I found ourselves alone, the remnants of the celebration around us. We walked to the edge of the venue, overlooking the city lights stretching far into the night. Mark, I know this hasn't been easy, but I hope we can see it as a new beginning, Linda said, her voice earnest. I do. Tonight wasn't just a celebration of a promotion. It was a reaffirmation of us, I replied, and it taught me something important, about trust, and about how easily fear and doubt can cloud that trust. Linda nodded, her head resting against my shoulder. I love you, Mark. I promise. No more secrets, even the good-intended ones. And I promise to trust more, to ask before I accuse, I vowed, a lesson hard-learned but deeply ingrained now. We stood together, the cityscape before us a canvas of possibilities. It was a moment of quiet intimacy, of reconnection and newfound understanding. As we turned to leave, hand in hand, I felt a profound sense of peace. Reflecting on our journey, I invite you, the listener, to share your own stories of misunderstandings and reconciliations. How have you navigated the delicate balance of trust and doubt in your relationships? Join the conversation below, and let's discuss the power of communication and understanding in our lives. Together, we learn, we grow, and we find new ways to strengthen our connections.